My name is Maya Sanchez, a 22-year-old ballet dancer who dedicated my entire youth to the Opéra Garnier in Paris. I once believed the stage was where I belonged, a place where I could soar and give my all. But that belief was cruelly shattered by Madame Dubois, a woman I considered my godmother, my great mentor. She turned me, and dozens of other young dancers, into pawns in a transatlantic human trafficking ring, raking in millions of euros. When I discovered the disgusting emails, the secret contracts forcing us to perform in distant, dark places, my blood boiled. I confronted Dubois, demanding justice, but all I received in return was slander and the destruction of my career. Fear consumed me, for how could a fragile girl stand against a force capable of turning her life into hell? I was torn between protecting myself, holding on to the little piece I had left, or rising up to fight for what's right. But then, looking into the frightened eyes of the other dancers, I knew I couldn't back down. My conscience wouldn't allow it. This time, I won't dance to their tune anymore. I will tear down this curtain of lies, and I will make Madame Dubois pay a steep price. Madame Dubois lied to me. I spent 25 years, bleeding and sweating, all for a dream she turned into a cage. She said I was weak. She said pain was art. She smiled when Alina fell, smiled when I nearly broke. Her words. They cut deeper than any pirouette. I looked at my swollen feet, the bruises beneath my point shoes, and I saw myself, like Alina, like Claire, like all the others she crushed, a puppet, a disposable tool, but she made one fatal mistake. She thought I'd break in silence just like everyone else. She didn't know pain could turn into fire, and I was ready to burn. I am not her dancer anymore. I am Maya Sanchez. And today, this stage, these rules, they all change. When people ask me what I do, I usually smile and answer I am a ballet dancer, because that is the simplest way to say it. The truth is more complicated. I am not just a dancer. I am someone who has given her entire life to the art form. Every morning since I was a child, I have woken up with the sound of music in my head and the feeling that my body had to move. I dreamed of stages lit in gold, of audiences holding their breath as I lifted into the air, of the title that every girl in ballet whispers to herself late at night. Prima ballerina. I grew up in Queens. My parents are immigrants from Mexico who came here with nothing but worked night and day so I could have opportunities they never had. My father drove a taxi. My mother cleaned apartments and later became a cook in a diner. They were exhausted most of the time, but they always had time to take me to dance class. My mother sewed my first pair of practice shoes by hand because we could not afford the real ones. My father used to sit in the corner of the studio after a long shift, his eyes closing, but the second the music started he straightened and watched like it was the most important show on earth. I remember being 9 years old and standing in front of the cracked mirror of that small neighborhood studio, sweat sticking my leotard to my back. The teacher barked corrections in a thick Russian accent, and I pushed myself harder and harder. I could not explain why, but I felt as if ballet was not just something I liked. It was who I was. By the time I was 14, I was commuting into Manhattan for classes at a prestigious academy. The other girls had expensive leotards and private tutors. I had calluses on my feet and subway tokens jingling in my pocket. I felt out of place, but every time I stepped onto the floor and let the music carry me, I knew I belonged. Now I am 25. After years of sacrifice, after turning down parties, vacations, even relationships, I have finally been accepted into the most famous ballet company in New York. For dancers like me, this is the summit. The golden door to the dream. The building of the company rises like a cathedral near Lincoln Center. Glass and marble, banners fluttering with photos of dancers frozen in impossible beauty. I still remember the first time I walked through those doors. The smell of resin and rosin, the squeak of shoes on marly floor, the echo of piano keys bouncing off the high ceilings. My heart raced so hard I could barely breathe. And then there was her, Madame Dubois. She was waiting at the front of the studio that day. Tall, elegant, wrapped in a tailored black suit, her silver hair pulled into a chignon so tight it looked like glass. Her eyes scanned the line of new dancers like a general inspecting troops. When they landed on me, I felt my chest tighten. Her lips curved into something that could have been a smile but carried no warmth. "Welcome," she said, her French accent smooth as silk and just as sharp. "This company demands perfection. If you do not have it, you will not last." I swallowed hard but lifted my chin. I wanted to prove I was worthy. That first week was a blur of sweat and sore muscles. I danced from morning to night. My toes bled, my legs shook, but I told myself pain was part of the price. The other dancers were breathtaking. Some had trained in Europe, others came from famous conservatories. But I noticed something else too, a shadow behind their elegance. Their smiles faded quickly when Dubois entered. Their conversations stopped. Fear settled in the room like dust. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was just nerves, the pressure of being in such a legendary place. But deep down, a question formed. Was ballet supposed to feel like this? In the evenings, I collapsed into the small apartment I shared with my roommate Elena Rossi. Elena was 24, Italian-American, with dark curls always escaping her bun and a laugh that filled the room. She was my first friend in the company. She reminded me of the girls back home, teasing, warm, unpretentious. At night we sat on the floor with cheap takeout, massaging our aching calves, and she whispered stories about rehearsals, about older dancers who had vanished from the roster without explanation. "Do not ask too many questions," she warned, her eyes darting to the window as if someone might be listening. "If Dubois thinks you are trouble, you are done. Just smile, dance, survive." I nodded, but the words sat heavy in my chest. It was not all fear, though. There were moments of magic. The first time I stepped onto the stage of the Grand Theater for rehearsal, my breath caught. Rows and rows of red velvet seats stretched into darkness. The chandelier glittered above like a constellation. When the lights hit me, I felt the dream again, the little girl with homemade shoes whispering to her reflection, "You belong here." One evening after rehearsal, as I limped toward the subway, I heard music drifting from a side hall. Not the usual piano scales, but a violin, rich and alive. I followed the sound and found Daniel Kim, one of the orchestra musicians, practicing alone. His bow glided like a dancer across the strings. When he noticed me, he smiled, gentle and kind. "You look like you fought a war," he said. "Every day is a war," I answered, laughing despite myself. We began to talk. Daniel was Korean-American, a little older than me, thoughtful in a way that made me slow down. He told me about the long rehearsals for musicians, the pressure of keeping pace with the dancers. I found myself confiding in him more than I expected, telling him about my family, about how badly I wanted to prove myself. "Do not lose yourself," he said softly. "The stage can be beautiful, but it can also swallow people whole." His words stayed with me. Then there was Victor Alvarez, my ex-boyfriend. He was already part of the company when I arrived. Tall, strong, with a presence that filled the room. Our relationship had ended a year before, messy and unresolved. Seeing him again in rehearsals was like reopening a wound. He barely acknowledged me, focusing instead on impressing Dubois, but I caught him watching me more than once. His gaze carried the same mix of admiration and rivalry that had always complicated us. Between Elena's friendship, Daniel's quiet support, and Victor's haunting presence, my world spun faster than ever. Still, the shadow remained. During rehearsals, I noticed dancers pushing past limits, their faces pale, their bodies trembling. One evening, I walked into the dressing room and found a girl crying silently, clutching her ankle, the swelling obvious. Before I could speak, she shook her head frantically. "Please do not say anything. They will cut me out." I froze. Cut her out? Was injury something to be hidden? Later that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I remembered the way Dubois' eyes had scanned us that first day. Cold, calculating, as if we were not people but instruments, tools. The dream of becoming prima ballerina burned bright inside me, but for the first time, a chill slid down my spine. What if the price of that dream was more than I could pay? The second week inside the company felt like stepping into another universe. Every morning I walked into the rehearsal hall, my bag heavy on my shoulder, the smell of sweat and resin hanging in the air. Dancers stretched in silence, bodies folded like origami, every tendon visible under pale skin. No one joked, no one wasted words. The piano keys tapped out scales as if reminding us time was already running out. And then she appeared. Madame Dubois did not simply enter a room, she claimed it. Her heels clicked against the marley floor, echoing through the hall until every head turned. She wore black again, always black, as if color itself might dilute her power. Her hair was a crown of silver, her lips painted red like a warning. She paced slowly across the studio, eyes scanning each dancer, lingering just long enough to remind us that nothing escaped her. When her gaze landed on me, I felt my spine stiffen. It was not approval. It was evaluation. "Today," she announced, her accent wrapping around the words like silk and steel, "we work on Firebird variation. I want to see hunger. Hunger makes art. Without hunger, you are nothing." She clapped her hands once and the pianist began. We moved. The air grew heavy with effort. Sweat dripped from temples, bodies slammed into turns, breath came in ragged gasps. Dubois circled us like a hawk. She stopped a boy mid-leap, snapped her fingers, and barked, "Do it again." With soul. "You look like a puppet." She pressed her palm into a girl's back until her spine arched past the point of safety. The girl winced but kept going. When it was my turn, my legs trembled. I launched into the variation, forcing every muscle to obey, willing my body to fly. For a moment I felt the music carry me, but then I landed slightly off. My ankle wobbled. I corrected quickly, but Dubois had seen. She strode forward, eyes sharp. "Balance comes from the core, not from luck," she said coldly. Then she leaned close enough that only I could hear. "You want to shine, Maya Sanchez? Then stop being afraid. Fear is for the weak. Weak dancers do not last." Her words sliced through me. I nodded, forcing strength into my voice. "Yes, madame." She smiled then, thin and dangerous, before turning away. That evening, Alina and I walked out together, our bags bumping against our hips. She looked pale, her buns slightly loose. "She is terrifying," Alina whispered. "Do you know what she told me? That if my arabesque is not higher by next week, she will cut me from the core. My hip already hurts and I can barely sleep at night." "Maybe you should see a doctor," I said softly. She shook her head violently. "If she finds out I am injured, I am finished. Do you understand? Finished." Her voice cracked on the word. I wanted to argue, but the fear in her eyes stopped me. Later, as I sat alone on the subway, I thought about Madame Dubois' face. That mix of beauty and cruelty, like a queen who ruled through fear. Part of me wanted to hate her. Another part, the ambitious part, whispered that maybe she was right. Maybe pain was the price. Maybe fear was fuel. The next day, rehearsals bled into costume fittings. I found myself standing on a raised platform while seamstresses tugged at fabric, pinning the bodice tighter until I could barely breathe. Dubois walked by, glanced at me, and murmured, "Good. She looks like a swan. Fragile, breakable, perfect." Her words chilled me. During breaks, I sought comfort in Daniel's company. He often practiced in the orchestra pit during our rehearsals, and when everyone else cleared out, I would linger, pretending to tie my shoes until the hall was empty. Then I would sit on the edge of the stage and listen. One afternoon, I told him what Dubois had said. "She wants us to be hungry, she says," I explained, my voice low, "but it feels like she wants us to be starving." Daniel lowered his bow and studied me. "Do you know what happens to a violin string when it is pulled too tight?" "It breaks," I said. He nodded. "Exactly. Pressure creates music, but too much destroys it. Same for you." His calm words soothed me, but when I looked around at my fellow dancers, their haunted eyes, their clenched jaws, I wondered if anyone else still believed in balance. Victor finally spoke to me that week. We had avoided each other since my arrival, but one evening after rehearsal, he cornered me in the hallway. His eyes burned with the old fire I remembered, that mix of desire and arrogance. "You look good out there," he said simply. I folded my arms. "Thanks." "You are pushing yourself harder than ever. Careful, though. Dubois loves breaking people who think they can outshine her." I frowned. "I am not trying to outshine her, I am just dancing." He smirked. "That is the same thing." For a moment silence stretched between us, thick with history. Then he leaned closer. "Do not underestimate her, Maya. She will test you. She will find your weakness." I wanted to ask why he cared, but he was already walking away, his back straight, his steps echoing down the corridor. That night, Alina and I sat on the fire escape of our apartment, eating takeout noodles from paper boxes. The city buzzed below us, taxis honking, voices rising from the street. "I keep thinking," I admitted, "maybe Dubois is right. Maybe pain is part of greatness. Maybe fear sharpens us." Alina shook her head, her curls catching the glow of a street lamp. "No, Maya, greatness comes from love, from passion. If fear is all we have, then what are we even dancing for?" Her words struck deep. I looked at her, at the bruise blooming on her shin where she had hidden it under tights, and wondered how long she could keep going. The following rehearsal proved worse. Dubois called us one by one to demonstrate. When Alina faltered, her leg trembling, Dubois snapped her name like a whip. "Do you want this career or not?" she demanded. "Yes, madame," Alina gasped. "Then dance through the pain. Pain is temporary, art is forever." The pianist struck the keys again, and Alina forced herself into motion, her face twisted in agony but her body still elegant. My stomach knotted. When rehearsal ended, I lingered, unable to leave. Dubois approached me again, her heels tapping the floor. She studied me as if I were a painting she could edit at will. "You have potential," she said softly. "But potential is worthless if you do not have discipline. Remember, Maya, discipline over everything, even over health, even over friendship. Especially over fear." I nodded because what else could I do? But inside, something trembled. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The dream of becoming prima ballerina still glowed inside me, but another feeling began to grow too. A sense that something was very wrong. That behind the glitter of the stage, behind the standing ovations and the glowing reviews, there was a darkness we were not supposed to see. And I could not shake the feeling that Madame Dubois was feeding that darkness, one dancer at a time. The studio smelled of liniment and desperation. By the third week, the rehearsals for Swan Lake consumed every breath, every muscle, every dream. The mirrors reflected rows of swans, our necks long, our arms trembling with effort. Madame Dubois sat in her chair like a monarch, her sharp eyes cutting through every movement. I watched Alina beside me. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight. She had wrapped her hip in an extra layer of fabric under her tights, but I saw the stiffness in her movements. Each time she extended her leg, the pain flickered across her face. During a pause, she leaned close to me and whispered, "I cannot feel my toes. They go numb halfway through." My chest tightened. "You have to see someone," I whispered back. She shook her head, eyes darting toward Dubois. "If she finds out I am gone, I cannot lose this. Not now." The pianist struck the keys again and we were back in motion. Alina forced herself through the sequence, her body betraying her. When she stumbled out of a turn, Dubois slammed her cane against the floor. "Stop," Dubois barked. Her heels clicked as she crossed the room. She stood inches from Alina, her voice low and cutting. "What is this? Do you think this stage forgives weakness?" Alina's voice shook. "No, madame." "Then prove it again." She clapped her hands and the music began. Alina obeyed, biting down on pain so hard I could almost hear her teeth grind. I wanted to scream, but my throat was locked. When rehearsal ended, Alina could barely walk. I caught her arm and pulled her aside. "You are hurting yourself," I said. "This is not sustainable." She gave me a hollow smile. "We are all hurting ourselves, that is the point." Her words clung to me like smoke. That night I stopped by Daniel's rehearsal room. He was bent over his violin, drawing out notes that shimmered like fragile glass. When he saw my face, he lowered the bow. "What happened?" he asked. "Alina is breaking," I admitted, "and Dubois just keeps pushing. It is like she wants us to dance until we collapse." Daniel rested his violin against the chair. "She thrives on obedience. As long as you all stay silent, she owns you." "But what choice do we have?" I asked, voice rising. "If I speak up, she will destroy me. She can end my career with one word." Daniel's eyes softened. "Then the question is, Maya, which matters more to you, the career or the truth?" His words lodged deep in my chest, a thorn I could not remove. The following morning I arrived early and found Victor already stretching. He looked at me through the mirror, his expression unreadable. "You look tired," he said. "I am," I replied. He studied me for a long moment before speaking. "You are starting to see it, aren't you? The cost." I nodded slowly. "She is destroying people." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "She always has, but no one dares say it aloud. You think you can change her? Do not be naive. She will crush you before she lets you threaten her throne." "Then what am I supposed to do?" I asked. Victor's jaw tightened. "Survive, that is what we all do. Survive until maybe one day it is our turn to shine." His words tasted bitter, but they were honest. Later that day, during a brutal sequence of rehearsals, Alina collapsed. Her leg buckled under her and she fell to the floor with a strangled cry. Gasps rippled through the room, but before anyone could move, Dubois rose from her chair. "Get up," she commanded. Alina clutched her hip, tears spilling down her face. "I cannot," she whispered. Dubois' expression hardened. "If you cannot dance, you do not belong here. Leave the studio." The room froze. No one dared move. I stepped forward instinctively, anger burning in my chest. "She is injured," I said, my voice trembling but loud enough for everyone to hear. "She needs help, not humiliation." Every head turned. The silence was suffocating. Dubois' gaze landed on me like a blade. "Careful, Miss Sanchez," she said, her voice low and venomous. "Do not mistake compassion for strength. Weakness spreads like disease." My fists clenched. "If caring about people is weakness, then maybe you are the disease." Gasps filled the studio. The pianist stopped playing. The other dancers looked horrified, frozen in place. Dubois stepped toward me slowly, her heels tapping like a countdown. She stopped inches from my face, her eyes gleaming. "You will regret those words," she whispered. Alina was escorted out, her body trembling. No one spoke. No one defended me. Dubois returned to her chair and clapped her hands. Again from the top. We danced as if nothing had happened, but inside me something had shifted. That night my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. The words made my heart race. "I saw what you did today. Meet me tomorrow evening at Café Orion. We need to talk. Signed, Claire." I stared at the screen. Claire, I knew the name. She was a former soloist who had vanished from the company years ago after a sudden injury. Rumors had swirled, but no one knew the truth. Now she was reaching out to me. I felt both fear and hope twisting inside. Maybe I was not as alone as I thought, but one thing was certain. I had crossed a line today, and Madame Dubois would never forgive me. Café Orion was tucked between a bookstore and a florist, its windows fogged with steam from the espresso machines. I arrived early, nerves twisting my stomach. My hands shook as I wrapped them around a chipped mug of coffee. The door opened and she walked in. Claire. Even after years away from the stage, I recognized her instantly. Tall, elegant, with a carriage that spoke of years of ballet discipline. But her limp was impossible to miss, and her eyes carried a heaviness that no pirouette could disguise. She spotted me and came over. Maya? Yes, I said softly. She slid into the chair across from me. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. You are braver than most, standing up to Dubois like that. I wanted to find you the second I heard. My throat was dry. What happened to you, Claire? Why did you leave the company? Her expression hardened. I did not leave, I was pushed. I tore a ligament during rehearsal. Dubois told me to keep dancing. Said pain was weakness. I trusted her. I pushed until the damage was permanent. Her voice trembled with restrained fury. And when I could not perform anymore, she cut me loose, just like that. A decade of sacrifice, and suddenly I was disposable. She spread rumors that I had lost my passion. No one hired me again. I felt my stomach knot. That is horrible. She leaned closer. And it is not just me, there are others. Dancers who broke their bodies for her approval, who vanished when they could no longer serve. She has been doing this for years. I lowered my voice. If that is true, why has no one stopped her? Claire laughed bitterly. Because she is powerful, critics adore her, donors worship her, dancers fear her. No one dares speak against her, until now. Her eyes locked on mine. You can expose her, Maya, but you cannot do it alone. I swallowed hard. What do you mean? She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. She slid it across the table. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside were photographs, medical reports, contracts with fine print that waived liability for injuries. Proof. This is my story, Claire said, and the stories of others who trusted me enough to share. If you are willing, you can use this, but you must be careful. Dubois will not hesitate to destroy you. She nearly destroyed me. I closed the folder, my heart pounding. Why now? Why me? Because you have fire, Claire said simply, and because you still have a voice. Use it before she silences you. Silence stretched between us. The hum of conversation in the cafe felt distant. I looked at her limp, at the way her hand trembled when she reached for her cup, and I knew she was telling the truth. When we parted ways, she touched my arm. Remember, Maya, the stage is beautiful, but behind the spotlight there is darkness. Do not let it swallow you. That night I sat on my bed with the folder spread out before me. Elena was asleep in the next room, her breath shallow with pain. I studied the reports, the testimonies, the signatures. The evidence was undeniable. Dubois had built her empire on broken bodies. The next morning rehearsal felt heavier. Dubois watched us with her hawk's eyes, snapping commands, demanding perfection. I could not look at her the same way. Every word from her mouth sounded poisoned. During a break, Victor approached me again. His gaze flicked to the folder peeking out of my bag. What are you doing, Maya? He asked quietly. Nothing, I lied. He frowned. You think you are the first to question her? Others tried. They are gone now. Do not make the same mistake. Maybe it is not a mistake, I said. He shook his head. You do not understand. Dubois has friends in high places. If you go against her, you will lose everything. I stared at him. Maybe everything is not worth it if it means destroying ourselves. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. Later that evening, I found myself on the fire escape with Elena again. She was quiet, her eyes on the city lights. I finally asked, Elena, if you knew Dubois was hurting people, would you want me to speak out? She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the railing. I would want you safe, she said softly. But if someone does not stop her, no one will survive this world. Her words lingered long after she went inside. The next day, I carried Claire's folder into rehearsal. The weight of it in my bag felt like carrying a secret too dangerous to share. I kept my head down, danced with precision, and pretended everything was normal. But inside, I was burning. During lunch, I slipped into a quiet corner and pulled out one of the medical reports. Elena found me there, her face drawn. What is that? She asked. I hesitated, then handed it to her. She scanned the page, her eyes widening. This is Claire. And others, I whispered. Elena pressed a hand to her mouth. If this is true, it is true, I said firmly. I met her. She showed me everything. Tears filled Elena's eyes. Maya, you cannot fight her. She will destroy you. She will destroy both of us. Maybe, I admitted, but maybe we have to try. At that moment, Madame Dubois' voice echoed through the hall, calling us back. Elena shoved the paper back into my hands, her eyes filled with fear. As I stuffed it into my bag, I caught Dubois watching me from across the room. Her lips curved into a knowing smile. And in that moment, I realized she already suspected. The rehearsal hall was silent except for the creak of pointe shoes against the floor. We were running the Black Swan pas de deux, and though I tried to lose myself in the steps, I felt her gaze drilling into me. Madame Dubois sat in her chair, a black shadow at the edge of the room. When rehearsal ended, she called my name. "Maya, stay!" The other dancers filed out quickly, their eyes flicking toward me with pity and fear. Elena lingered for half a second, but Dubois snapped her fingers. "Out!" And then it was just the two of us. Dubois rose slowly, her heels clicking like a metronome across the floor. She stopped a breath away, her perfume sharp in my nose. "You have been busy," she said softly, almost kindly. I swallowed hard. "I have just been rehearsing, madame." Her eyes glinted. "Do not insult me, I know you met with Claire." The air left my lungs. "How?" She cut me off with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "I see everything. Do you really think you can waltz into my company and challenge me? Do you think you are strong enough to fight me?" My voice trembled, but I forced the words out. "I just want to dance. I want to do it without people getting destroyed in the process." Her smile vanished. She leaned close, her breath hot against my ear. "You are nothing without me, do you hear? Nothing. One word from me and every door in this city slams shut. You will be blacklisted before you can even pack your bags." I clenched my fists. "If that is true, then maybe your empire is built on fear, not art." She pulled back, her eyes narrowing. "Careful, Maya, fire is beautiful, but it burns out quickly." She turned and walked away, her heels echoing like a death sentence. When I finally left the studio, Elena was waiting outside. She grabbed my arm. "What did she say?" I shook my head. "She knows." Elena's face drained of color. "Maya, you have to stop, please. If she goes after you, I cannot protect you." I hugged her tightly. "You do not have to protect me, just stay with me, that is enough." That night I could not sleep. I sat at my desk with Claire's folder open, the reports spread like broken wings across the wood. Each name, each injury, each signature weighed on me. I thought about Daniel's words, "Pressure creates music, but too much destroys." He was right, and Dubois was tightening the strings until we snapped. The next day, rehearsal was worse. Dubois watched me like a hawk. She corrected me harshly, calling out every mistake, humiliating me in front of the others. "Sanchez, your arms are weak. Do you want to be a swan or a scarecrow? Again?" Her voice lashed me until my skin burned. I felt the other dancers' eyes on me, some sympathetic, others wary. No one spoke up, not even Victor. During break, I escaped to the dressing room. My reflection in the mirror looked hollow, my bun too tight, my eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Elena joined me, sitting quietly at the vanity beside mine. "She is targeting you," Elena whispered. "I know. Maybe if you apologize." "I am not apologizing for telling the truth," I snapped. She flinched and I softened. "I am sorry, I cannot keep pretending this is normal." Elena's voice cracked. "Then what happens to us?" "What happens to me?" I reached for her hand. "We will figure it out together." That evening I went to see Daniel. He was tuning his violin when I walked in, but he stopped the moment he saw my face. "She confronted you," he said. I nodded. He set his violin down and came closer. "Maya, you're standing on the edge of a cliff. One step too far and she will push you off. Are you ready for that?" I looked at him, my throat tight. "I do not know, but I know I cannot go back." He held my gaze for a long time, then touched my hand gently. "Then at least do not stand alone." His words gave me a strange comfort. The days that followed were a blur of rehearsals, corrections, exhaustion. Dubois' wrath focused on me like sunlight through glass. She praised others, ignored mistakes, but every slip of mine became a public spectacle. One evening after rehearsal, Victor cornered me again in the hallway. His expression was strained, his eyes hard. "You are making a mistake," he said. "Maybe," I replied, "but at least it is mine." He exhaled sharply. "You think you're brave, but you are reckless. Dubois will ruin you, I have seen it before." I studied him. "Then why are you warning me? Why do you care?" For a moment he said nothing, then his jaw tightened. "Because once I thought I could fight her too, and I lost. Do not follow me into the fire." He walked away before I could ask more. That night, Elena cried in her room. I sat outside her door, listening to her muffled sobs. I wanted to tell her everything would be okay, but the truth stuck in my throat. And somewhere deep inside, I felt the weight of Dubois' words. She could destroy me. She could end everything I had worked for. But another voice inside whispered louder, maybe that was the point. Maybe some things were worth losing everything for. The days blurred together into a haze of bruises and music. Rehearsals stretched until midnight, and the company began to move like ghosts. No one smiled anymore. Even laughter in the dressing rooms had gone extinct. Madame Dubois' shadow stretched over everything, heavy and suffocating. She had made me her target. Every slip, every hesitation, every breath she did not approve of became fuel for her cruelty. "Again, Sanchez," she barked one morning, her cane tapping the floor. "Your Port de Bras looks like a rag doll. Do you want to embarrass my company?" I forced my arms into smoother arcs, my jaw clenched. Her lips curved into a smile. "Better. But still weak. You will never be a prima if you cannot command the air." Whispers rippled behind me. I could feel the others shrinking, not daring to look my way. Alina's eyes flicked toward me, filled with pity, but she said nothing. None of them ever said anything. That afternoon, when rehearsal ended, I found my locker door hanging open. My point shoes were missing. Panic jolted through me. I searched every corner, but they were gone. I stormed to Dubois' office, my heart pounding. She sat at her desk, a crystal glass of wine in her hand. She looked up slowly, her smile sharp. "Lose something?" she asked. "My shoes," I said. She raised her brows. "A dancer who cannot keep track of her own tools is not ready for greatness." I froze. "Did you?" Her smile widened. "Be careful with your accusations, Maya. The world listens when I speak. Who do you think they will believe, a starved little dreamer or me?" I bit my tongue so hard it bled. She leaned back, swirling the wine. "Go buy new ones," she said, "and maybe next time guard them better." I walked out shaking, fury burning under my skin. That night I went to Daniel's rehearsal room. He was alone, bowing a slow, aching melody that sounded like sorrow itself. "Dubois is playing with me," I said, slamming my bag down. "She took my shoes. She knows everything. She will not stop until I break." Daniel lowered his violin, his eyes searching mine. "Then you cannot play her game. What else can I do?" "You fight differently," he said quietly. "Not with rage, but with truth. Rage burns fast, truth lasts." His calm voice steadied me, but the fear still clung like chains. Later that week, I met Claire again. We sat in the corner of the cafe, the folder of evidence between us. "She is turning everyone against me," I whispered. Claire's jaw tightened. "That is how she operates. Isolation makes you easy to control. She did the same to me. Do not let her cut you off. Find your allies." "Who?" I asked bitterly. No one dares speak. Her eyes softened. "Then you be the first. Courage is contagious, Maya. One person's defiance can spark another's." I looked at her limp, at the pain etched into her face, and I felt my resolve harden. That evening, back at the apartment, Alina confronted me. She stood in the doorway of my room, her arms crossed, her eyes red. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. "Doing what?" "Poking her, fighting her. Do you not see what she is doing to you? She will destroy your career. She will destroy you. I cannot watch it happen." I rose to my feet, my throat tight. "And what about you? You are barely standing. You cannot even tie your point ribbons without wincing. She is destroying you too, Alina, all of us." Her eyes filled with tears. "At least I still have a chance. If you keep pushing, we lose everything." Her words struck hard. I pulled her into a hug, but she stayed stiff, her fear stronger than her affection. The next rehearsal, Dubois escalated. She ordered me to demonstrate alone in front of the company. My muscles screamed with exhaustion, but I danced. When I faltered, she laughed softly. "Do you see?" she said to the others. "This is what happens when arrogance blinds you. Learn from her mistakes." Laughter did not follow, just silence, heavy, choking silence. When rehearsal ended, I sat in the dressing room staring at the floor. Alina touched my shoulder. "You should stop," she whispered. I shook my head. "If I stop, she wins." "Maybe that is better than losing everything," she said. I met her eyes. "No, Alina, better to lose everything than lose ourselves." That night, I wrote in my journal until my hand cramped. I wrote about Claire's courage, about Daniel's steady music, about Alina's fear and Victor's warnings, about the way Dubois poisoned beauty until it rotted, and I realized something. I had already lost too much to walk away. The stage was my dream, but the truth was bigger. If no one stood up, she would keep breaking us until nothing was left. I closed the journal and whispered to myself, "Then let it be me." The city outside never slept. Sirens cut through the night, taxis honked impatiently, and the lights of Manhattan glittered like a restless heartbeat. But inside my apartment, silence pressed in thick and heavy. I sat at the kitchen table, Claire's folder spread before me, pages filled with medical records, testimony, names of dancers who had vanished from the company with injuries they never recovered from. My fingers trembled as I traced the words. This was not just my fight anymore. It was the story of dozens who had been silenced before me. A knock startled me. When I opened the door, Daniel stood there, violin case slung over his shoulder, his expression serious. "I could not sleep," he said softly. "Thought maybe you could not either." I stepped aside and he walked in. He placed his violin on the table, looking at the scattered papers. "You are carrying a mountain," he murmured. I gave a small laugh, bitter and tired. "More like the mountain is crushing me." He studied me, then opened his violin case. Without a word, he drew the bow across the strings. The notes rose, gentle at first, then strong, weaving through the room like a lifeline. My breathing slowed. For the first time all day, I felt air in my lungs. "Why do you keep doing that?" I asked quietly when he finished. He smiled faintly. "Because music reminds us of who we are when the world tries to make us forget." The next morning, rehearsal began with a chill in the air. Dubois walked in wearing a crimson scarf that trailed behind her like fire. Her cane clicked against the floor with authority. "Today," she said, "we test loyalty. Those who are truly dedicated will rise, those who are not. Well, perhaps the company does not need them." We exchanged uneasy glances. My stomach nodded. She called on Alina first. Alina danced flawlessly, though her face betrayed the pain in her ankle. Dubois clapped slowly, her eyes glittering. "Good, you understand sacrifice." Then she turned to me. "Sanchez, your turn." I walked to the center, every pair of eyes stabbing into my back. The music began. I moved, each step deliberate, each extension a silent act of defiance. My body screamed, but I pushed through. Halfway through, she barked, "Stop." The music cut. She stalked toward me, her cane tapping. She circled me like a predator. "Your technique is clean," she said coldly, "but your spirit is rebellious, and rebellion infects." Her voice rose. "Do you want to infect my company, Sanchez? Do you want to poison what I built with your insolence?" Silence. My heart thundered. Then Alina spoke, her voice trembling. "She is not poisoning anything, madame. She is only tired." My eyes widened. Alina, brave enough to speak even a little. Dubois' gaze snapped to her. "Tired?" she repeated, her tone sharp as glass. "A dancer does not get tired. A dancer bleeds, breaks, and still rises. Weakness has no place here." The room froze. Alina lowered her head, shame and fear washing over her. I felt anger ignite inside me. "We are not machines," I said. My voice shook, but I did not stop. "We are human beings. You cannot keep breaking us." Gasps echoed. Dubois' eyes turned to me, icy with fury. She leaned close, her perfume suffocating. "You will regret this," she whispered. That night I found Alina crying in the dressing room. She looked up at me, guilt etched into her face. "I should not have said anything," she whispered. "Now she will punish me too." I knelt beside her, taking her hands. "No, you were brave. That is how change begins. One voice, then another. We cannot be silent anymore." She shook her head, terrified. "She can end us, Maya." "Maybe," I said softly, "but if we do nothing, she will end us anyway, one by one." Later that week, Claire called me to meet her at a dimly lit diner on the Lower East Side. She slid a small USB drive across the table. "This," she said, "is video footage, rehearsals, injuries, the way she forced us to keep going. I kept copies. I knew one day someone would need them." I stared at the drive, my pulse racing. "Why give it to me?" "Because you are still inside," she said simply. "Because you have the courage I lost." I tucked the drive into my bag, the weight of it heavier than anything I had ever carried. When I returned home, Daniel was waiting on the stoop. He looked up at me, concern etched across his face. "Something has changed," he said. I nodded slowly. "I have proof now." He studied me. "And what will you do with it?" I drew in a breath. "Not yet. I need to gather more. I need allies." The next few days, I began quietly testing the waters. A whispered conversation with Victor in the hallway, a subtle question to Alina during warm-ups, a late-night chat with another dancer, Sophie, whose wrist had been taped for weeks without real treatment. Each time I saw hesitation, fear, but also something else. A flicker, a spark. One night after rehearsal, Sophie approached me in the shadows of the alley outside the theater. "You are right," she whispered. "She does not care about us. I want to help." The circle was growing. Small, fragile, but real. Still, Dubois seemed to sense the shift. Her eyes followed me more closely. Her punishments became sharper. Once she accidentally let her cane strike my ankle as she walked past. "Be careful, Maya," she said softly, almost kindly. "Accidents happen. Careers end in an instant." Her words chilled me, but I refused to look away. That night, I sat on my balcony overlooking the city. I could hear music drifting from a window nearby, the sound of a piano. My heart pounded with fear, but beneath it was something stronger, determination. The shadows were closing in, but I knew I was not alone anymore. And I whispered to the city lights, "It is beginning." The rehearsal hall felt like a battlefield. The air was thick with sweat and unspoken fear. Every time Madame Dubois entered, silence fell so sharp you could hear the breath catch in each chest. Her eyes flicked from one dancer to the next like a hawk surveying prey. Her cane tapped against the floor with steady rhythm, a sound that had come to mean dread. We all moved faster, higher, sharper, as though each step might save us from her wrath. But no matter how perfect the lines, she found flaws. She always did. I had begun to notice small moments, though. The way Alina's eyes would meet mine across the room, steady and unyielding. The way Sophie adjusted her wrist brace, hiding her pain but glancing at me as if to say, "I am with you." Even Victor, though cautious, lingered near me more often, his voice low as he muttered, "She is watching you too closely. Be careful." The circle was fragile, but it was forming. That night I invited them all to my apartment, just a few of us. Alina arrived first, wrapped in a scarf despite the warm evening, her ankle still troubling her. Sophie came next, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, her eyes scanning the hallway nervously before slipping inside. Victor followed, quieter, reserved but present. Daniel was already there, tuning his violin softly in the corner, his presence grounding me. When the door closed, the air shifted. For the first time, we were not just dancers, we were something else. I spread Claire's documents across the table. "This is what she has done," I said. "Not just to us, to others before us. Injuries ignored, careers ended, lives broken. She hides it all to protect herself." Lena's hand trembled as she picked up a photo of a former dancer on crutches. "I remember her," she whispered. "She vanished so suddenly. Dubois said she lacked discipline." Sophie leaned closer. "It was not lack of discipline, it was her knee. I saw it swell every day, she could not even walk by the end." Victor's jaw tightened. "And we said nothing, we all stayed silent." "We stayed silent because we were afraid," I said gently. "But we do not have to be anymore. Claire gave me evidence. Video. Records enough to make the world listen, but I cannot do it alone." The room fell silent. Finally, Alina straightened, her voice quiet but firm. "Then you are not alone." One by one, Sophie and Victor nodded. For the first time in months, hope flickered inside me. The next days, we practiced caution, conversations in whispers, papers hidden in locked drawers. I carried the USB drive like a secret heartbeat against my chest, but Dubois was sharper than ever. During one rehearsal, she stopped the music abruptly. "Sanchez," she snapped, her cane striking the floor, "your timing is late again." I had not been late, everyone knew it, but no one spoke. She advanced, her eyes like knives. "Do you think you are above correction, that you are untouchable?" I forced my body still. "No, madame." Her cane brushed dangerously close to my shin. "Good, then remember, one slip, one fall, and I will not hesitate to replace you. Prima ballerina dreams can vanish with a single misstep." Her words cut deep, but I refused to bow. After rehearsal, I found Alina waiting by the stage door. She caught my arm, her voice urgent. "She knows, Maya, maybe not everything, but she feels it. We have to be careful." I nodded, my chest tight. Careful, but not silent. That weekend, Daniel arranged for us to meet someone new, a lawyer he trusted, named Rachel Adams, who specialized in cases of abuse in the arts. We met in a quiet cafe, away from the theater district. Rachel was sharp-eyed, her hair pulled into a sleek bun, her presence calm but commanding. "I have seen this before," she said after listening to us. "Directors who believe they are gods, they build empires on the broken bodies of their dancers, but bringing them down is not easy. You need proof, more than testimony, something undeniable." I slid the USB across the table. "We have this." She plugged it into her laptop, her brow furrowing as she watched the clips. Injuries, dancers collapsing, Dubois pushing them to continue. When she looked up, her voice was steady. "This is strong, but we need more: medical records, financial ties, anything that connects her to those pharmaceutical payments you mentioned." I exchanged a glance with Victor. His expression was grim. "I might know how to get that," he said quietly. We leaned in as he explained. He had once been asked to deliver sealed envelopes from Dubois' office to a pharmaceutical representative. He suspected invoices or contracts. "If we can get into her office," he whispered, "we can find them." The plan was reckless, dangerous, but it was the only way. That night, lying awake in bed, I felt fear press down like a weight, but beneath it, something stronger pulsed. This was no longer just about ballet. This was about dignity, humanity. The right to be treated as more than expendable bodies. As sleep finally pulled me under, I whispered into the darkness, "We are coming, madame." The plan began with whispers in hallways and stolen glances in rehearsal mirrors. We all knew the risks. Dubois' office was a fortress of steel and glass, her files guarded by locks, cameras, and her constant presence. But Victor insisted there were windows, moments when the office was empty, when the cleaners moved through and security loosened. We chose a Friday evening when most dancers left quickly, desperate for weekend rest. I stayed late, claiming I needed to work on footwork. Victor slipped away during a break, his heart pounding so loud I swore I could hear it. Alina distracted the stage manager with chatter about costumes, her smile strained but convincing. Every second felt stretched thin like it could snap and shatter us all. Victor returned with a folder tucked under his jacket. His face was pale, his breathing sharp. He handed it to me quickly. Contracts, invoices, payments from Halberd Pharmaceuticals, tens of thousands, regular, always signed by Dubois. I stared at the papers, my throat tightening. Proof, actual proof, but we were not safe yet. The next morning, Dubois summoned me to her office. The room was immaculate, a world of polished wood and expensive perfume. She gestured for me to sit, her smile razor thin. "You are talented, Maya," she began, her voice soft, almost kind. "Perhaps too talented, but talent can be dangerous when it is not guided, when it strays." I forced myself to meet her eyes. "I am grateful for your guidance, madame." Her smile sharpened. "Are you, because I hear whispers, dancers who linger near you too often, questions asked that should not be asked? You must understand. Loyalty is everything in this company. Without it, you have nothing." She leaned closer, her perfume heavy, suffocating. "Do not mistake kindness for weakness. I can end your career before it begins. One phone call, and every director in this country will shut their doors to you." My heart pounded, but I held her gaze. "Then maybe I will find doors that do not belong to you." The silence that followed was thick as smoke. Her smile vanished. "Be careful, Sanchez, very careful." When I left her office, my knees nearly buckled. I leaned against the wall, sucking in shaky breaths. She knew, maybe not everything, but enough to strike. That night, I met Daniel at the pier. The Hudson River glistened under moonlight, waves lapping gently against the wood. I handed him the folder, my hands trembling. "She is on to me," I whispered. He took the folder, his expression grim. "Then we must move faster. You cannot let her tighten the noose." I nodded, swallowing hard. Over the next week, Dubois' tactics grew crueler. She assigned me impossible parts in rehearsals, demanding I repeat sequences until my muscles screamed. When I stumbled, she smirked. "Perhaps you are not as promising as I thought," she said loudly so the entire company could hear. Alina slipped me ice packs in secret. Sophie whispered encouragement. Victor clapped me on the back after each brutal day, but Dubois' shadow loomed larger. Then came the gala announcement. "The Winter Gala will feature our brightest star," Dubois declared in rehearsal. "And that star is not Maya Sanchez." She turned to Alina, her smile dazzling. "Congratulations, Alina. You will take the lead." Gasps rippled through the room. Alina's eyes widened, then darted to me. Guilt flooded her face. Dubois' gaze cut to me, triumphant. "Perhaps now you will learn humility." I forced myself to smile at Alina, though my chest burned. Later, in the dressing room, Alina burst into tears. "She is using me against you," she sobbed. "I never wanted this. I cannot take it from you." I held her hands. "Listen to me. This is not your fault. She is trying to divide us." "Do not let her." "But the gala? Let her give it to you," I said firmly. Dance it beautifully, because we will not beat her by refusing roles. We will beat her by surviving long enough to expose her." Alina clung to me, nodding through her tears. The night of the gala shimmered with diamonds and gowns, the theater lit like a cathedral. Alina danced like fire, her every move fierce and perfect. The audience roared with standing ovations. Dubois basked in the glow, her cane tapping proudly against the stage, but I saw the wince in Alina's ankle, the way her smile faltered backstage. She pushed through the pain, hiding it because that was the culture Dubois had created. After the curtain fell, I helped Alina to the dressing room. Her ankle was swollen, angry red beneath the makeup. She bit her lip to stifle a cry. "This is what she wants," I whispered. "To break us until there is nothing left. We cannot let her keep doing this." Alina gripped my hand, tears in her eyes. "Then end it, Maya, please." That night, I uploaded copies of the contracts and the videos to Rachel, the lawyer. Her reply was swift. "This is enough to begin, but if you are ready to go public, understand your life will change. The company will turn on you. Are you prepared for that?" I stared at the screen, my reflection faint in the glass. My dreams of prima ballerina shimmered like ghosts, but behind them, stronger, was the truth. I typed back one word. "Yes." The morning after I told Rachel yes, the theater felt colder than usual. The lobby's marble floors gleamed, but the air buzzed with attention no one dared name. I walked in, clutching my bag to my chest, every eye turning toward me. Whispers followed me down the hallway like smoke. Dubois had begun her campaign. She did not need to raise her voice. All it took was a sharp comment here, a faint smile there, her words carried in hushed tones among dancers desperate to survive. "She thinks she's better than us. She wants to bring the whole company down. She's ungrateful. Madame gave her everything. Each whisper cut like a blade. During rehearsal, Dubois focused her cruelty on me. She stopped the music mid-phrase, her cane tapping against the floor. Again, she said coldly. I repeated the sequence. My muscles burned. Again. Sweat slid down my back, my legs trembling. Again. The room blurred. I stumbled. Gasps echoed. Dubois' lips curved into a smile. Pathetic. Do you see, everyone? This is what happens when ambition outpaces discipline. I clenched my fists, biting back the scream rising in my throat. Elena's eyes met mine, wide with fear. Sophie shifted uneasily. Victor's jaw tightened. I forced myself upright. I can do it again. No, Dubois snapped. You are done, get off my stage. The words landed like a slap. I walked off, my chest burning with humiliation, but inside me something harder was forming. Not despair, defiance. That night our small circle met again at my apartment. Elena limped, her ankle wrapped tight. Sophie rubbed her wrist, hidden beneath her sleeve. Victor sat stiffly, his hands clasped, eyes darting to the window as though Dubois herself might appear. She is trying to break you, Victor said finally. It is obvious. And it is working, Sophie whispered. People are turning against you. She is poisoning them. Then we have to move faster, I said. Rachel says the evidence is strong, but if we wait too long, she will bury me before I can speak. Elena nodded, her voice trembling but steady. Then we do it. We go public, together. Daniel, sitting in the corner, set his violin down. But you must be ready, Maya. Once this is out, there is no going back. I looked at him, at all of them. Fear etched every face, but there was fire too. I am ready, I said quietly. The next days blurred with rehearsals, each one harsher than the last. Dubois seemed to sense the endgame. She pushed me harder, criticized me louder, staged small humiliations to keep me isolated. One afternoon, she called me into her office again. Her tone was sweet, her smile soft, but her words were poison. You remind me of myself at your age, she said. Hungry, reckless, believing the world owes you a spotlight. But let me teach you a lesson I learned long ago. The world does not reward truth, it rewards loyalty. And if you cannot give me that, you will have nothing. I met her gaze, my voice quiet but sharp. Then I will take nothing over lies. Her eyes narrowed. You are making a mistake, Maya, a mistake that will haunt you. When I left, my legs shook, but I did not crumble. That night, Rachel confirmed she had arranged a meeting with a journalist from a major arts publication, one who was willing to listen, to see the documents, to tell the story. But Dubois was already tightening the noose. Rumors spread that I had cheated on auditions, that I had forged my resume, that I was unstable. Dancers who once smiled at me now turned away. My locker was vandalized, my costumes tampered with. One evening, as I walked home, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, but the street was empty. Still, the feeling of being hunted clung to me all the way to my door. Inside, I collapsed into Daniel's arms, trembling. She will not stop until I am destroyed. He held me tight. And do not let her destroy you, fight back. The following week, Dubois announced a surprise casting change. For the spring production, she said to the company, the lead role of Giselle will go to Maya Sanchez. The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, stares. I froze. This was no gift. It was a trap. Dubois smiled at me, her eyes gleaming. Do not disappoint me. Backstage, Elena hissed. She is setting you up. She will push you until you collapse in front of everyone. I know, I whispered. But maybe we can turn it against her. That night, I met Rachel and handed her the final folder of evidence. Release it when I perform. Let the world see the truth while she tries to destroy me on stage. Rachel hesitated. It will be chaos. Yes, I said, but it will be our chaos, not hers. The plan was set. As I lay in bed, the city lights flickering through my window, I felt fear curl around me like smoke. But beneath it, steady as a heartbeat, was something stronger. Resolve. Dubois thought she had written my ending, but she did not know that I had already begun writing my own. The night of the Giselle performance arrived, heavy with anticipation and dread. The theater buzzed with electricity. The chandeliers sparkled overhead, reflecting in the polished marble floors. The audience murmured, unaware of the storm about to break behind the curtains. Backstage, the company moved like clockwork, each dancer a blur of nerves and precision. Elena adjusted my costume silently, her hands trembling but steady. Sophie wrapped my ankle with extra care. Victor lingered in the shadows, alert, scanning for trouble. I held the USB drive in my palm, a weight heavier than any pair of point shoes I had ever worn. Claire's evidence, the contracts, videos, the invoices, all ready to go public. Tonight was the night the truth would be unleashed. The curtain rose. I moved onto the stage, every eye on me. The music began, the orchestra swelling, notes rippling through my bones. I danced Giselle as if my life depended on it, which in a way it did. Every leap, every turn, every extension carried defiance, fear, and courage all at once. From the wings, Alina whispered, "You've got this." Sophie caught my hand briefly, squeezing it for strength. Victor nodded silently, giving me the courage to breathe through the panic threatening to claw my chest. In the audience, Dubois sat like a statue of ice, her eyes locked on me. I felt her gaze, sharp and unrelenting. She had set this trap. If I faltered, if I slipped, the theater would cheer her victory, not mine. I danced harder, pushed farther, and the audience responded. Gasps of awe and applause echoed through the hall, the kind that made hair stand on end. But I was only halfway through my mission. Backstage, Rachel prepared to send the files to the journalist. I held my breath as she clicked send, the screen confirming the transfer. The evidence was now out of our hands, circulating into the world of media, ready to expose Dubois' years of manipulation and cruelty. The first murmurs reached the theater within minutes. Phones buzzed in the audience, whispers spreading. Some theatergoers leaned forward, confused. Others exchanged shocked glances. Dubois' expression faltered for a fraction of a second, but she recovered quickly, her smile a mask. She had no idea the reach of what we had unleashed. I finished the final sequence of Giselle's variation, arms stretched toward the heavens, a smile painted across my face. The audience erupted into thunderous applause. I took my final bow, heart hammering not from performance but anticipation. Backstage, the phone rang. Rachel's voice was calm but urgent. "It's everywhere. Headlines, social media, major news outlets. Dubois' connection to Halberd Pharmaceuticals, the mistreatment of dancers, the hidden injuries, it's exploding." Alina and Sophie stared at me, eyes wide. "Is it really happening?" Alina whispered. "Yes," I said, "it is." The rest of the night was a whirlwind. Calls came from journalists, dancers from other companies reached out to express support, and the social media storm grew into a tidal wave. Dubois retreated into her office, shutting the door. Rumors spread that she was calling donors, lawyers, and friends, trying to contain the fire she had ignored for too long. The next morning, the theater was a battleground of chaos and disbelief. Reporters waited outside, cameras flashing. Inside, the dancers whispered among themselves, some relieved, some fearful. Dubois did not appear in public. Victor found me in the empty rehearsal hall. "You did it," he said quietly. I shook my head. "We did it." Alina hugged me, tears streaking her face. "I cannot believe it. She can't hurt us anymore." Sophie smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "It's finally over." Outside, the headlines screamed, "Renowned ballet director exposed for endangering dancers and accepting pharmaceutical bribes." The story dominated news cycles. Dubois' empire of fear was crumbling in real time. I sat with Claire later, watching the news coverage. She reached out, squeezing my hand. "You did it. You gave us a voice." I smiled, my body still aching from the performance, but my heart lighter than it had been in years. "No, we did it, all of us." Everyone who was brave enough to speak, to stand, to endure. The backlash against Dubois was swift. Sponsors withdrew funding. The board of directors suspended her pending investigation. Former dancers began coming forward, sharing their stories. For the first time, the company felt alive again, not as a machine of fear, but as a community of artists slowly healing. That night, I sat on my balcony, the city lights twinkling below. I thought about every dancer who had been silenced, every injury hidden, every moment of fear we had endured, and I whispered into the wind, "We are free." For the first time in years, I felt the stage beneath my feet as a place of beauty, not danger. The shadows of the past still lingered, but the spotlight now felt like hope rather than threat. The night of the Giselle performance arrived, heavy with anticipation and dread. The theater buzzed with electricity. The chandeliers sparkled overhead, reflecting in the polished marble floors. The audience murmured, unaware of the storm about to break behind the curtains. Backstage, the company moved like clockwork, each dancer a blur of nerves and precision. Alina adjusted my costume silently, her hands trembling but steady. Sophie wrapped my ankle with extra care. Victor lingered in the shadows, alert, scanning for trouble. I held the USB drive in my palm, a weight heavier than any pair of point shoes I had ever worn. Claire's evidence, the contracts, videos, the invoices, all ready to go public. Tonight was the night the truth would be unleashed. The curtain rose. I moved onto the stage, every eye on me. The music began, the orchestra swelling, notes rippling through my bones. I danced Giselle as if my life depended on it, which in a way it did. Every leap, every turn, every extension carried defiance, fear, and courage all at once. From the wings, Alina whispered, "You've got this." Sophie caught my hand briefly, squeezing it for strength. Victor nodded silently, giving me the courage to breathe through the panic threatening to claw my chest. In the audience, Dubois sat like a statue of ice, her eyes locked on me. I felt her gaze, sharp and unrelenting. She had set this trap. If I faltered, if I slipped, the theater would cheer her victory, not mine. I danced harder, pushed farther, and the audience responded. Gasps of awe and applause echoed through the hall, the kind that made hair stand on end. But I was only halfway through my mission. Backstage, Rachel prepared to send the files to the journalist. I held my breath as she clicked send, the screen confirming the transfer. The evidence was now out of our hands, circulating into the world of media, ready to expose Dubois' years of manipulation and cruelty. The first murmurs reached the theater within minutes. Phones buzzed in the audience, whispers spreading. Some theatergoers leaned forward, confused. Others exchanged shocked glances. Dubois' expression faltered for a fraction of a second, but she recovered quickly, her smile a mask. She had no idea the reach of what we had unleashed. I finished the final sequence of Giselle's variation, arms stretched toward the heavens, a smile painted across my face. The audience erupted into thunderous applause. I took my final bow, heart hammering not from performance but anticipation. Backstage, the phone rang. Rachel's voice was calm but urgent. "It's everywhere. Headlines, social media, major news outlets. Dubois' connection to Halberd Pharmaceuticals, the mistreatment of dancers, the hidden injuries, it's exploding." Alina and Sophie stared at me, eyes wide. "Is it really happening?" Alina whispered. "Yes," I said, "it is." The rest of the night was a whirlwind. Calls came from journalists. Dancers from other companies reached out to express support, and the social media storm grew into a tidal wave. Dubois retreated into her office, shutting the door. Rumors spread that she was calling donors, lawyers, and friends, trying to contain the fire she had ignored for too long. The next morning, the theater was a battleground of chaos and disbelief. Reporters waited outside, cameras flashing. Inside, the dancers whispered among themselves, some relieved, some fearful. Dubois did not appear in public. Victor found me in the empty rehearsal hall. "You did it," he said quietly. I shook my head. "We did it." Alina hugged me, tears streaking her face. "I cannot believe it, she can't hurt us anymore." Sophie smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "It's finally over." Outside, the headlines screamed, "Renowned ballet director exposed for endangering dancers and accepting pharmaceutical bribes." The story dominated news cycles. Dubois' empire of fear was crumbling in real time. I sat with Claire later, watching the news coverage. She reached out, squeezing my hand. "You did it, you gave us a voice." I smiled, my body still aching from the performance, but my heart lighter than it had been in years. "No, we did it, all of us. Everyone who was brave enough to speak, to stand, to endure." The backlash against Dubois was swift. Sponsors withdrew funding. The board of directors suspended her pending investigation. Former dancers began coming forward, sharing their stories. For the first time, the company felt alive again, not as a machine of fear, but as a community of artists slowly healing. That night, I sat on my balcony, the city lights twinkling below. I thought about every dancer who had been silenced, every injury hidden, every moment of fear we had endured. And I whispered into the wind, "We are free." For the first time in years, I felt the stage beneath my feet as a place of beauty, not danger. The shadows of the past still lingered, but the spotlight now felt like hope rather than threat. White heavy checkmark, that is part 11, tilde 30, 000 characters. Do you want me to continue with part 12, where the investigation into Dubois deepens, the company begins reforming, and Maya starts building her own academy to protect future dancers? You said, T.I. letter 1 EBFP ChatGPT said. Here comes part 12, tilde 30, 000 characters of shadows behind the spotlight. This section covers the deepening investigation into Dubois, the company's gradual reform, and Maya beginning the foundation of her own academy for dancers. The days after the exposure were surreal. Calls, emails, messages, all cascading like a storm I could barely navigate. The theater buzzed with nervous energy and cautious optimism. Dancers moved with tentative relief, whispers of hope replacing the old hum of fear. Dubois did not appear publicly. Rumors swirled that lawyers were summoned, that her personal accounts were frozen, that sponsors were reconsidering contracts. The company's board issued a statement promising full cooperation with the investigation, but the air of tension remained. Victor approached me during rehearsal one afternoon. His expression was serious but relieved. "They are going through the financials." Contracts, invoices, payments, everything that links Dubois to Halberd Pharmaceuticals is being scrutinized. It looks like the evidence is solid. I nodded, my chest tight but lightened by the confirmation. It feels unreal, I admitted. Real or not, he said quietly, you did what no one else dared. You saved a lot of people from more suffering. Elena appeared beside us, her ankle wrapped carefully, still bruised from rehearsals. It feels strange to breathe again, she whispered. To know we can dance without fear, Sophie nodded. It's like waking up from a long nightmare. I smiled softly at them, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. The fight had been long and dangerous, but we had survived. In the weeks that followed, I worked closely with Rachel, providing further documentation, arranging interviews with former dancers, and helping the media tell the full story. Dubois' attempts to discredit me failed spectacularly. The weight of evidence was undeniable. At the same time, the company began implementing changes. New policies for dancer safety were introduced, medical checks became mandatory, and a confidential system for reporting abuse was established. The environment slowly shifted from fear to accountability. One afternoon, Daniel and I sat on the roof of my apartment building, watching the city pulse below. They are really doing it, he said. The company is changing. I nodded. It's a start, but there's so much work ahead. So many dancers who were silenced for years, they deserve more than just reforms, they deserve protection. He smiled gently. Maybe that's your next step. The thought had been forming in my mind for weeks. My own academy, a place where dancers could train, grow, and flourish without fear. A sanctuary of art and care. I began sketching plans, thinking about curriculum, physical therapy programs, emotional support, and mentorship. Every element was designed to honor the dancers' well-being. Lena, Sophie, and Victor became my first advisors, offering insight from their experiences, ensuring the academy would be a safe haven rather than a gilded cage. One evening, after a long day of planning, I gathered my circle in my apartment. This academy, I said, it is not just about ballet. It is about respect, safety, and opportunity. Every dancer who walks through those doors will know they are valued. Elena smiled, her eyes bright. It feels good to think about the future instead of the past. Sophie nodded. We can finally create something we believe in. Victor leaned back, a rare smile crossing his face. It will not be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. Daniel played softly on his violin as we sat in the quiet, planning and dreaming. Music, laughter, and hope filled the space where fear once dominated. Meanwhile, the media frenzy around Dubois continued. Investigators confirmed her financial misconduct, and several lawsuits were filed by former dancers. The theater world was shaken, but the change felt tangible. Dancers who had suffered in silence were finally being heard. One afternoon, I stood in the empty auditorium, sunlight streaming through the high windows. I ran my hand over the stage, feeling the polished wood beneath my fingertips. This stage had been a place of pain, yes, but now it symbolized something new: resilience, courage, and transformation. I whispered to the empty seats, "We can heal, we can rise," and I believed it. In the following months, plans for the academy solidified. Classes were scheduled, scholarships established, and a small but dedicated staff gathered. The academy's name, the Aurora Ballet Institute, reflected the dawn of a new era for dancers, an era where brilliance would not come at the cost of health, dignity, or humanity. I watched Elena teach a younger student, her movements careful but confident. Sophie guided a group through strength exercises, ensuring no one overexerted themselves. Victor oversaw logistics and security, making certain every protocol was in place. Daniel offered music classes, teaching students to connect movement with emotion. One evening, as the city lights glittered through the windows, I stood at the front of the studio, looking at the small group gathered. "Welcome," I said, my voice steady and full of hope. "Here you will dance freely, you will be safe, and you will be valued. Our art will never come at the expense of our humanity." Tears sparkled in Elena's eyes. Sophie's lips quivered in a smile. Victor nodded silently. And Daniel's soft melody filled the room, the first notes of a future we had fought to claim. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. The shadows behind the spotlight had receded, and in their place, light, warm, steady, and unyielding, shone over every dancer who dared to dream. The morning of the Aurora Ballet Institute's first official session arrived with a nervous buzz. The streets of New York outside sparkled with spring sunlight, but inside the studio, excitement and anxiety mingled like electricity in the air. I unlocked the doors, heart hammering. Months of planning, of preparation, of fighting and surviving had led to this moment. Each step across the polished wood floor felt heavier than any performance, but in a good way, the weight of responsibility, not fear. Elena, Sophie, and Victor were already there, arranging ballet bars and setting up mats. Daniel tuned the piano, his notes bright and encouraging. "First day," Elena whispered, adjusting her scarf. "I can't believe it's really happening." I smiled, trying to keep my own nerves hidden. "It is happening, and we're ready." Students began to trickle in, eyes wide with awe and curiosity. Some were young dancers with dreams burning bright. Others were older students, returning to ballet after injuries or discouragement. I greeted each one, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. "Welcome to Aurora Ballet Institute," I said, my voice steady despite the fluttering in my chest. "Here, you will be challenged, you will work hard, but you will always be safe, respected, and valued. Your art is important, but so are you." The room was silent for a moment, then soft murmurs of excitement filled the space. The first class began with gentle warm-ups. Elena guided the younger students through stretches, her movements careful but graceful. Sophie led a small group through strength exercises, emphasizing technique and safety. Victor supervised, ensuring that every student followed proper protocol. Daniel played, the music lifting the room like sunlight through a window. I watched them all, my heart swelling with pride. These dancers were beginning to experience something different, an environment where their well-being was as important as their performance. But leadership came with challenges I had not fully anticipated. During a mid-morning session, a student named Leela winced as she attempted a challenging sequence. I immediately approached. "Are you hurt?" I asked, concern evident in my voice. She shook her head, but I could see the pain etched across her face. I guided her to the side, speaking gently. "Listen to your body. Ballet is about grace and strength, not self-destruction." Elena and Sophie nodded, reinforcing my words. "We will adjust," Sophie said. "Your safety comes first." The other students watched, absorbing the lesson that perfection was not demanded at the cost of health. Later, during a break, Victor pulled me aside. "Maya," he said, concern in his eyes, "running this academy is different from surviving Dubois. People will test boundaries. Parents, students, even teachers, you need to be firm but fair." I nodded, understanding. Leadership was not just about guiding steps. It was about setting an example, building trust, and maintaining standards while protecting the dancers. By afternoon, the rhythm of the studio began to settle. Laughter and music filled the air, a stark contrast to the tense, fearful silence of my former company. Students practiced with care, correcting each other gently, encouraging, supporting. During the final class of the day, I addressed the students again. "Every dancer here has a story, a dream, and a body that deserves respect. Ballet is beautiful, but only when it lifts us rather than breaks us. Remember that as you train, as you perform, and as you support one another." The students nodded, their faces shining with excitement and understanding. After everyone left, I sat alone in the studio for a moment, the silence heavy but comforting. The sunlight streamed through the windows, dust motes dancing like tiny stars. I reflected on the journey that had brought me here, the fear, the struggle, the battles fought against Dubois and the system she represented. I realized I had grown, not just as a dancer, but as a leader, a mentor, and a protector of dreams. I understood now that ballet was not just about the spotlight, but about the strength and resilience it demanded offstage. Daniel approached, quietly sitting on the edge of the stage. "You've created something remarkable," he said softly. "These students will feel safe and inspired because of you." I smiled, exhaustion and fulfillment mingling in my chest. "It is just the beginning," I said. "There is still so much to do, so many dancers to reach. But for the first time, I feel like I am dancing towards something bigger than myself." Elena, Sophie, and Victor returned, carrying leftover supplies and worn smiles. We looked around the empty studio together, the quiet echoing our triumphs and challenges. "This is ours now," Elena whispered. "We make the rules, we protect the dancers. And we honor their dreams," I added, "every single one." The city outside continued to pulse with life, but inside the Aurora Ballet Institute, a new rhythm had begun, one of respect, hope, and dedication. We had survived the darkness behind the spotlight, and now we were building a place where light could flourish, undimmed and unwavering. I closed my eyes briefly, listening to the soft hum of the empty studio. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of purpose. Every bruise, every moment of fear, every struggle had led to this. And for the first time in years, I felt truly free. Weeks passed, and the Aurora Ballet Institute began to take on a life of its own. Classes multiplied, new students arrived each day, and the small staff, Alina, Sophie, Victor, and Daniel, worked tirelessly to create a safe, inspiring environment. The energy was different here, lighter, more open. Laughter replaced fear, curiosity replaced tension, and the joy of movement became the heartbeat of the studio. Yet, even in this sanctuary, challenges emerged. Some students pushed themselves too hard chasing perfection, while others struggled with self-doubt and insecurity. I realized that creating a safe space was only the beginning. I needed to guide, mentor, and sometimes discipline with both firmness and compassion. One afternoon, a young student named Clara collapsed during a stretching session. Her face was pale and she clutched her ankle. I rushed to her side, my heart racing. "Clara, breathe," I said softly, guiding her to a chair. "Tell me what happened." I overdid it," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I wanted to be perfect." Alina knelt beside her, adjusting her wraps. "Perfection is not worth pain. You are still learning, you are still growing." I nodded. "Here, we respect our bodies first, always." Ballet is not just about strength, it's about understanding your limits and honoring them. Clara nodded, trembling but relieved. I felt a deep satisfaction knowing she would leave the studio with more than just dance skills. She would leave with awareness and care for herself. That evening, Daniel and I sat in the music room, the soft glow of the city outside through the windows. "You are doing more than you imagined," he said quietly. "These students are lucky to have you." I smiled faintly, tired but determined. "It is not just me. We are all building this together. And there will be setbacks, mistakes. But every day we are teaching something bigger than ballet itself." Just as the academy began to flourish, shadows from the past re-emerged. Dubois had not disappeared quietly. Rumors circulated of her attempting to reclaim influence, whispering lies to former dancers, and subtly trying to discredit the Aurora Ballet Institute in local circles. One morning, I received a sharply worded email from a former patron of the theater company. The tone was polite but accusatory, questioning the credibility of the academy and implying that the stories about Dubois had been exaggerated. My stomach tightened. I shared the message with Victor. "She is trying to sow doubt," I said, frustration lacing my voice. Victor nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we respond by showing what we are: transparent, strong, and committed. Let her whispers fade in the light of truth." We took steps immediately. We documented every policy, every safety measure, every student success story. We opened lines of communication with parents and local arts organizations, ensuring that no one could doubt the integrity of our academy. Meanwhile, Dubois' attempts to reach former dancers personally created ripples of tension. Some hesitated, afraid to associate with us, worried about retaliation. I had to remind my team and myself that fear was a tactic, not reality. Courage would be our shield. During one faculty meeting, Alina voiced her concern. "Some students' parents are asking questions, they've heard whispers, they are worried." I leaned forward, meeting her gaze. "Then we tell them everything, full transparency. We cannot hide from the past, but we can show how we've built something new, something safe. That is our power." Sophie added, "And we must continue nurturing trust. It is fragile, but it grows when honesty is constant." The academy responded well. Parents were invited to observe classes, see the safety measures in action, and witness the encouragement and growth of their children. Word spread that the Aurora Ballet Institute was not just teaching dance, it was teaching respect, resilience, and self-care. Despite these victories, challenges persisted. Some students still struggled with old habits of overexertion or fear of failure. Others faced the weight of personal struggles outside the studio. I spent long hours mentoring, listening, and guiding, learning patience in ways I had never needed before. One evening, Daniel played softly while we observed the younger dancers practicing bar. I whispered, "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" He smiled, eyes following the fluid movement of the students. "Every day, and it is only just beginning. You've turned fear into hope, shadows into light." I felt a warmth spread through me. The academy had become more than a school. It was a sanctuary, a home, a place where dancers could grow unafraid. Every challenge, every setback, every shadow from the past reminded me why we fought, why we persisted. By the end of the month, the academy celebrated its first small recital. Parents, friends, and supporters filled the studio. Students performed with grace, confidence, and joy, their movements a testament to what could flourish in an environment free from fear. Backstage, I hugged Alina and Sophie. "Look at them," I whispered. "They are strong, they are safe, they are free to dance." Victor nodded quietly, "And it's only going to get better." I took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. We had faced the darkness behind the spotlight, confronted it, and now we were creating a new world where dancers could shine without being broken. As the applause echoed through the studio, I felt the truth settle in my chest. The past may have shaped us, but it did not define us. The future, bright, safe, and full of possibility, was ours to craft. The months that followed the first recital were a whirlwind of growth, challenge, and learning. Word of the Aurora Ballet Institute spread quickly. Dancers from all over the city, even from other states, wanted to join. Parents called daily to inquire about enrollment, and arts organizations reached out to collaborate. Yet, with growth came pressure. Each morning, I arrived before the students, reviewing schedules, overseeing classes, and ensuring that every detail from music to safety protocols was perfect. Elena, Sophie, Victor, and Daniel worked alongside me, but the responsibility of leadership rested heavily on my shoulders. One afternoon, while observing a ballet technique class, I noticed a subtle tension among the senior students. Some hesitated, unsure of their positions, others pushed too hard, trying to impress. I approached, gently guiding them through exercises. "Listen to your bodies," I said quietly. "Strength comes from balance, not force. Respect yourself as you respect the art." Elena nodded, supporting me. "We have to remind them constantly. Old habits die hard, but they can learn to move differently." Sophie added, "And not everyone will do it perfectly the first time. That's okay. Growth is not linear." Even with care, external pressures began to creep in. Local critics questioned the Academy's rapid rise, suggesting it was a reactionary venture rather than a legitimate school. One evening, I received an email from a prominent arts magazine requesting an interview, but the tone was condescending, implying I had no experience running a school. I shared it with Victor. "They're trying to undermine us before we can establish ourselves," I said. Victor's jaw tightened. "Then we prove them wrong. Let our work speak louder than their words." Daniel offered his quiet support. "They will see the truth. The dancers, the families, the community. This is real. This is meaningful." I nodded, drawing strength from my circle. We pushed forward, opening new classes, adding workshops on injury prevention, mental health, and choreography. The students thrived in the structured yet nurturing environment, their confidence growing with every day. One evening, during a contemporary dance class, a student named Ava approached me. She had joined only recently, hesitant and quiet. "Miss Sanchez," she said softly, "I was scared to dance here at first, but I feel like I can be myself, and I love it." I smiled, touched. "That is exactly why we do this. Ballet should make you stronger, not smaller. Your voice matters as much as your movement." She nodded, a shy smile spreading across her face. Amid the growth, I began receiving messages from former dancers of Dubois Company, thanking me for exposing the truth. Some shared stories they had never dared tell publicly. Each message reminded me that the Academy was not just a school, it was a statement. But even as victories accumulated, challenges persisted. Funding was tight. Space limitations became apparent as enrollment increased. Some students struggled academically while dedicating hours to training. Parents occasionally questioned methods or doubted the effectiveness of our approach. One afternoon, a parent approached me after class, concern etched in her face. "I understand what you're doing is different," she said, "but how can you ensure my daughter will be challenged enough to reach professional levels?" I took a deep breath. Challenged, yes. Pushed to excel, yes. But never at the cost of safety, health, or confidence. Our students learn discipline, artistry, and resilience. Those who are meant for professional careers will thrive because they are prepared holistically. The parent's expression softened, and she nodded. "I see. Thank you for your honesty." Even with these small victories, the world outside continued to test us. Dubois' name still circulated in the press, sometimes in attempts to discredit me indirectly. Some former colleagues reached out, curious, hesitant, or jealous, yet the Academy endured. Every challenge became an opportunity to demonstrate our values. Students learn not only ballet techniques but also empathy, collaboration, and integrity. During one staff meeting, Elena remarked, "Look at how far we've come." These students are growing and they are learning to support each other. We are really making a difference, Sophie added, and the best part is seeing them dance without fear, without doubt, with pure joy. That is something Dubois never gave us. Victor nodded. It feels like we're rewriting the rules of what a ballet school can be. Daniel played softly in the background as we reflected, his music a reminder of why we began this journey. By the end of the semester, the Academy held its first major showcase. Families, friends, and arts community members filled the studio. Each student performed with confidence, precision, and expression, demonstrating not just technical skill but personal growth. After the final bow, the applause was overwhelming. I looked at my team, Alina, Sophie, Victor, Daniel, and felt a surge of gratitude. Together, we had created a place where dancers could thrive. Backstage, a former student of Dubois Company approached me quietly. "Thank you," she said, tears in her eyes. "Because of you, I finally feel like I have a place to belong." I smiled, holding her hand. "You belong, always, and now you can dance freely." As the city lights glimmered outside the studio, I realized the impact of our work. The academy was more than a school. It was a beacon of change, a testament to resilience, courage, and the belief that art could be pursued without compromise to human dignity. I whispered to myself, "We have done it, and this is just the beginning." The shadows of the past had tried to linger, but the light we had cultivated was strong enough to keep them at bay. The Aurora Ballet Institute was not only surviving, it was thriving, shaping the future of ballet for generations to come. A full year had passed since the Aurora Ballet Institute opened its doors, and the changes were remarkable. The small, nervous group of students had grown into a thriving community of dancers, each one more confident and expressive than the last. Every corner of the studio resonated with energy, laughter, music, and the rhythmic thump of pointe shoes on polished wood. Mornings were filled with bar work, stretches, and technique classes. Afternoons featured choreography sessions, improvisation, and strength conditioning. Evenings were for reflection, mentoring, and one-on-one feedback. Every day, the academy reinforced its mission. Art and well-being were inseparable. One morning, I watched Alina teach a group of beginners, her patience and grace evident in every correction. Sophie led a class on injury prevention, her eyes scanning carefully, making subtle adjustments to postures and alignment. Victor ensured that safety measures were in place, while Daniel's music flowed effortlessly, inspiring movement and emotion. I moved among the students, offering encouragement, guidance, and gentle corrections. A young dancer named Sophia stumbled mid-pirouette. I stepped beside her, hands on her waist, voice calm. "You have the strength," I said. "Trust it, breathe, and let your body respond naturally. You are not broken, you are learning." Sophia nodded, taking a deep breath, and spun again, this time perfectly balanced. Her smile was radiant, filled with pride and newfound confidence. The bonds between students and mentors grew stronger each day. Students began supporting each other, helping newcomers adjust, and cheering on those who struggled. The sense of community and safety was palpable, a stark contrast to the fear and isolation I had endured under Dubois. During a mid-year staff meeting, Alina turned to me. "Maya, it's incredible how much these students have grown. They are learning discipline, artistry, and respect all at once. It feels like we are creating a new standard for ballet education." Sophie nodded. "And the impact goes beyond the studio. Families, friends, and the broader community are noticing the difference. They see dancers who are confident, healthy, and happy." Victor leaned back, a rare smile crossing his face. "It is not easy running an academy, but seeing this transformation makes every challenge worth it." The success of the academy also drew attention from the broader ballet community. Invitations to workshops, interviews, and collaborations arrived regularly. Critics who had doubted our legitimacy now sought insight and guidance. Maya Sanchez, the former dancer who had exposed Dubois, had become a respected voice advocating for dancer safety, education, and integrity. One evening, after a long day of classes, Daniel and I sat on the balcony overlooking the city. "You've created something incredible," he said quietly. "The academy is more than a school. It is a movement." I smiled, exhausted but fulfilled. It is not just me. It is all of us, staff, students, families. Together, we are redefining what it means to train and thrive in ballet. Even with progress, challenges remained. Some students faced personal struggles outside the studio, financial pressures, family issues, or health concerns. Others doubted their abilities, fearing failure despite their evident growth. Each challenge required attention, care, and guidance. One afternoon, a student named Leela approached me, tears in her eyes. I feel like I can't keep up. Some of the advanced students are too strong. I feel small." I knelt beside her, speaking softly. "Leela, your journey is yours alone. Strength is not measured by comparison to others, but by your courage, your persistence, and your heart. You belong here, and you will grow at your own pace." Alina and Sophie joined us, offering support. Together, we reminded her, and all students, that the academy valued each dancer's individuality, progress, and well-being. As the year progressed, the academy celebrated milestones, small performances, community showcases, and recognition from local arts organizations. Each event reinforced our commitment to safety, respect, and artistic excellence. One night, after a particularly moving showcase, I gathered the staff in the empty studio. Sunlight through the windows caught dust motes drifting in the air, creating a golden glow. "We have accomplished so much in 1 year," I said, voice steady. "We have created a place where dancers are safe, respected, and inspired. But our work is not done. We must continue to grow, learn, and protect every student who walks through these doors." Alina smiled, eyes bright. "And we will. This is just the beginning." Sophie added, "The impact we have goes beyond these walls. We are shaping a future where dancers are valued as humans first, artists second." Victor nodded. "We have built something strong. The community will feel it, and it will ripple outward." Daniel played softly, his music filling the quiet space. We listened, reflecting on the year, on the students who had flourished, the staff who had dedicated themselves, and the journey that had brought us here. Standing in the center of the studio, I felt a profound sense of purpose. The Aurora Ballet Institute had become a beacon of hope, resilience, and artistic integrity. It was proof that even after darkness, light could thrive. As I watched the shadows of the city stretch and fade under the rising sun, I whispered to myself and to all the students whose lives we had touched, "We have endured, we have grown, and we will continue to shine." For the first time, I understood fully that the true power of the spotlight was not in fame or applause, but in courage, compassion, and the commitment to lift others while pursuing your own dreams. Years had passed since the first day the doors of the Aurora Ballet Institute opened. The city outside continued to hum with life, but inside the studio, the heartbeat of the academy pulsed stronger than ever. Dancers moved across the polished floors with confidence, grace, and joy, a living testament to resilience and dedication. The academy had grown beyond my initial vision. Classrooms multiplied, rehearsal halls expanded, and a network of mentors, many former students, joined to guide the next generation. Each teacher embodied the values we had fought to establish: safety, respect, and excellence. I stood in the main studio one morning, watching a group of advanced students rehearse. Their movements were precise yet fluid, disciplined yet expressive. I felt a swell of pride, not just in their technical mastery, but in their ability to dance without fear. Alina approached, her eyes shining. "They've come so far. Every day, it amazes me how confident and strong they've become." Sophie nodded. "It's incredible to see them supporting each other, correcting gently, encouraging. They are carrying forward everything we wanted to teach them." Victor leaned against the doorway, a quiet smile on his face. "And they are a reflection of you, Maya. Your courage, your dedication, they've followed your example." I smiled faintly, touched. "It is all of us together. This is what happens when people believe in each other and in the art itself, not in fear or control." The impact of the academy extended beyond the studio walls. Alumni returned to share experiences, some pursuing professional careers, others becoming teachers or advocates for safe dance practices. The reputation of Aurora Ballet Institute spread throughout the arts community, not only for excellence in training, but also for creating an environment where human dignity mattered as much as skill. One afternoon, a young dancer named Ava approached me. "Miss Sanchez," she said softly, "I just wanted to say thank you. You showed me that ballet can be beautiful without hurting yourself, and that I can be proud of my body, not afraid of it." I knelt to meet her gaze, my heart full. "That is exactly why we do this. You belong here, and you deserve to dance freely and safely." Even as the academy flourished, I never forgot the battles that brought us here. Dubois' shadow, though long behind us, remained a reminder of what we had endured and why our mission was essential. I occasionally received letters from dancers who had suffered under her, sharing how the academy had inspired them or given them hope to pursue their dreams elsewhere. During a faculty meeting, Alina reflected, "It is amazing to see how much we've accomplished. These students will remember this experience for the rest of their lives. They will carry these lessons forward, not just in dance, but in how they live and work." Sophie added, "And they will teach others the same. We are creating a ripple effect of respect, compassion, and integrity in the arts." Victor nodded. "That is our true legacy. Not just the technique, not just the performances, but the values we instill and the courage we inspire." Daniel played a soft, soaring melody on the piano, filling the studio with warmth. I closed my eyes, listening to the music, feeling the weight of years of struggle lift from my shoulders. Every step, every fight, every moment of fear had led to this: a thriving community, a safe haven for dancers, a place where dreams could flourish. The first graduates of the academy had started teaching workshops in other cities, carrying the philosophy of Aurora Ballet Institute beyond New York. Emails, messages, and calls reached us regularly, sharing stories of young dancers finally able to train without fear, and studios beginning to implement safety and mentorship programs inspired by our example. During the annual showcase, families, friends, and arts community members filled the auditorium. Every dancer took the stage with confidence, performing not just for applause, but for themselves and for the journey they had undertaken. The energy in the room was electric, filled with pride, joy, and gratitude. Backstage, I gathered my team: Alina, Sophie, Victor, and Daniel. "Look at them," I whispered, my voice trembling with emotion. "They are strong, they are confident, they are free to dance. This is why we fought, why we never gave up." Alina smiled, tears in her eyes. "And they will continue to inspire others just like you did for us." Sophie added, "We have changed more than a school. We've changed lives." Victor nodded, "And this is only the beginning. The impact will keep growing far beyond these walls." After the showcase, as the theater emptied, I lingered on the stage, feeling the worn wood beneath my feet. I thought about every struggle, every moment of fear, every triumph that had brought me here. I whispered to the empty seats, to the dancers who had come before and would come after, "The shadows may visit, but the light endures. Courage, care, and truth will always prevail." Daniel's music floated softly in the background, a gentle reminder of persistence, hope, and artistry. I looked at the young dancers practicing their bows, the future stars of ballet, and I knew that the Aurora Ballet Institute would continue to shine, long after any shadow had passed. The spotlight no longer carried fear or control. It carried empowerment, joy, and the freedom to dance without compromise. And I, Maya Sanchez, once a dancer trapped by shadows, had become a mentor, a leader, and a guardian of the art I loved. Standing in the glow of the studio lights, surrounded by those I had nurtured and who had nurtured me in return, I felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. We had endured, we had triumphed, and together, we had transformed the world of ballet into a place where artistry and humanity coexist. I lifted my gaze to the horizon beyond the windows, the city alive with possibility, and whispered once more, "The spotlight is ours, and we will use it to lift every dancer who dares to dream."